All right, and we're off to the races again. All right, so second team. Second team, we're going to do Stefan. I like Stefan's draft, so another team that I like. We'll kind of just jump right into it. 15 overall. You took Justin Jefferson, $60. Uh, Considering I spent 57 on A.J. Brown, I wish I had spent the $60 on Justin Jefferson. No, Jefferson's great. I talked about Devontae Adams, I think, being the best route runner as a wide receiver. I think the NFL Top 100 listed Tyreek Hill as the number one player. That's more to do with speed. I think the best receiver in football is Justin Jefferson because he can do everything. Like, he is a very, very good route runner. He is very fast. He has great body control, great footwork, great fluidity. Last year was the first time he ever missed significant time since he got hurt. In his 8 fully healthy games, though, he averaged 24 fantasy points, and those include some games with Nick Mullins and Josh Dobbs and Jaron Hall. So I talked about Malik Neighbors with Daniel Jones, and Justin Jefferson has Sam Darnold. Yeah, it took me a minute. So Justin Jefferson has Sam Darnold, but the difference is, I think Jefferson going into his 5th year is just incredible. I think he's an incredible player. He's proven it. So I think he'll be a top 5 receiver. I think chances are he'll be a top 3 receiver. I think you're talking 110 catches-ish, 1,500 yards, 8 touchdowns. So, I mean, $60 is a lot, especially for a receiver, especially in this economy for running backs. But Jefferson I had as my number 2 guy on the board after Tyreek Hill. He's just incredible. And there's the fears over everything. With Sam Darnold, you just got to put it in Jefferson's vicinity, and he's just got to stay healthy. That's it. But he's the highest paid receiver in football. Well, second highest paid, and I guess CeeDee Lamb got paid today. But he's worth every penny. So he's incredible. He's basically the second coming of Randy Moss from Minnesota. So I like it. Good start. 39 overall, Devontae Smith. Another guy that I had high on my board. I like Devontae Smith a lot. I took A.J. Brown, unfortunately. You got Devontae Smith for only 22, and he was a top 20 receiver. What intrigues me about Devontae Smith is last year the Chargers had Keenan Allen have a career year, and that was under offensive coordinator Kellen Moore. Well, lo and behold, Kellen Moore is now in Philadelphia. So Kellen Moore helped feed Keenan Allen. Before that, he was feeding CeeDee Lamb. I think now it's the Devontae Smith show. So obviously I'm betting on A.J. Brown with Kellen Moore. That was part of the reason I picked him. But I really, really like Devontae Smith. I think he's definitely going to break 1,000 yards, 85 receptions, 6 or 7 touchdowns. If he's not the number 1, that's okay. He's still averaging 9 targets a game. Him and Brown just get fed. And he's the perfect low-end wide receiver too, and getting him for $22 was a steal. I am surprised you were able to get him for that low, but I guess there were quite a few receivers around there. I mean, I talked about it. Justin got Malik Neighbors for 21 and Calvin Ridley for 18. So basically the ballpark for wide receiver 2s seems to be where the deals were this year in this draft. And it seems to be borderline from $17 to like $23-ish. Because I know, Sarah took like Brandon Ayuk, I think, for 16 and DJ Moore for 14. So that was really like the wide receiver. You're hoping these guys are like borderline wide receiver 2, wide receiver 3-ish guys who are in this range. And that's where the deals were. So I think that's a good deal. I really like Devontae Smith's upside. 2 outstanding wide receivers to start the draft off. Third pick, I mean, maybe you were doing your research, man, because another pick that I really like this pick, is lo and behold, Drake London. So, London has been trapped in Atlanta with Arthur Smith. Arthur Smith is gone. Unfortunately, he's on my Steelers, but I digress. Who did we bring in? Well, we hired Raheem Morris, who's the former Bucs head coach, former Rams defensive coordinator, but that's not what we're really worried about on offense. What we're worried about on offense is who's the OC. The OC is Zach Robinson, who is another Sean McVay disciple. So, what does all that mean? Well, we're going to go from a run-heavy scheme to Kirk Cousins in a pass-heavy scheme. Now, Atlanta, I think, will be good this year. Why do I think Atlanta will be good? Well, last year it really was about the quarterback. They have a top 5 offensive line. The defense is good. It's not great. It's good. But top 5 offensive line. Bijan Robinson and Tyler Algier is like a top 5 running back duo. Kirk Cousins, I think, is like borderline top 10 quarterback. We'll say because of the injury, he's like 13. All right, so he's a slightly above average. It's all about the receivers. They signed Darnell Mooney, but it's the Drake London show. Drake London has never broken 1,000 yards. I think he's going to break 1,000 yards. I think he's going to be a very good wide receiver, too. I think you might have slightly overpaid on the upside for him, so $40 is a lot. So him plus Jefferson's $100. That's a lot for 2 guys. But if you're betting on the upside, this is a good bet to bet on because we don't know anything about Atlanta. I mean, I can make projections. I can really like the OC, but I don't know what the team will look like. But everything about their offseason, to the coaching staff, to the players, to the talent, says they will be good. So I could see like 85 receptions, 1,200 yards, and 8 touchdowns, and that's solid wide receiver 2, borderline wide receiver 1 numbers. So, yeah, I mean, we got 3 really, really good receivers. We got basically a great number 1, we got a great number 2, and a guy who's our number 3 who's actually number 2. And we spent a lot of money doing it, but 3 really good upside receivers. The next pick was interesting. You spent $18 on Zamir White, and he's your number 1 running back. Now, a lot of people are mixed on White because, on the one hand, he's never been the guy for the Raiders. Josh Jacobs is gone, and now we have White, and he doesn't pass catch, so how that's going to help him. I think, knowing Antonio Pierce being the coach and seeing how the season finished last year, the Raiders are probably going to be pretty run-heavy. That's part of the reason why I didn't love Davante Adams. Like, I'd rather have Drake London at 40 than Davante Adams at 35, despite the fact that Davante Adams is far and away the better receiver. The situation is just so much better in Atlanta. So, Zamir White is a low-end RB2. It's scary because you don't want him to have like the Alexander Madison season like he had last year, but you could also hope for him having the Zach Moss-esque season that he had. So it's kind of like it's a mystery box. But for $18, I don't think it's bad. You need a running back. He's a starting running back. I don't think he'll catch very much. I know the projections have him for like 35 catches. I don't think he's caught like 12 in a season. So I'm going to go on the low end and go with like 20. But I could see him getting like 200, 250 touches and breaking 1,000 yards rushing. I think he'll get like 5 or 6 touchdowns. So is that an RB1? No, it's a low end RB2. But hey, we spent our money getting those receivers, so that's not bad. It's not bad for the price. I tell you, any running back with a pulse, man, $18 on a running back, I'm not going to argue. Jalen Waddle for 19. Okay. Things that go in Waddle's favor. Last year he had 1,000 yards. He had 7 touchdowns. He's got another incredible play caller. This time not from the McVay tree, but from the Shanahan tree. So his play caller is Mike McDaniel. Tua just throw it up to Tyreek Hill, and then Jalen Waddle eats all the scraps. So, yeah, between him and Tyreek, like, what was it? He was averaging like almost 15 points a game last year, Waddle, because they're just high-flying offense. So, I don't know if he'll be quite that good, but I think like 1,000 yards, 5 touchdowns, which again is a low end RB2. So we're talking like RB2 or low end wide receiver 2. So we're talking like top 25 ish receiver, and that's like, well, yeah, that's your 4th receiver. So we've just hit our 4 like receiver rooms, and was it? I just judged. So I just judged like Justin's team, and he has Kamara, but like for the money, like obviously I'd take Justin Jefferson over Kamara for sure, but like for the money, like Devontae Smith, Drake London, Jalen Waddle, and Zamir White. I mean, I just think, over Neighbors or Ridley or Dell. So, I mean, Dell's probably the best value among all of those 8 receivers between the 2 teams, but I take Stefan's team 10 out of 10 times over Justin's team so far on this draft build, just because, like, the upside is crazy with some of these players. Like, it's crazy. Like, all these guys, not a single one of those guys has been in the league more than 5 years. They're all basically in their prime right now at like 27. That's like perfect age for like what they're doing. Like Zamir White's never been the guy. So could he be a bust? Yeah, sure. But for $18, he also could be Aaron Jones. Like, so love it. Love the build so far. And then we have Aaron Rodgers. Don't love it. Not a fan. I mean, he was an MVP 3 years ago. He blew out his Achilles last year. He's 40 years old, but he's got Garrett Wilson. You're basically hoping, is the O-line fixed, and does he stay healthy? So we'll do the kind of thing. I will say the O-line is mostly fixed. I don't know about Tyron Smith on the left tackle, but they spent a first-round pick on it to get another tackle just to be a swing tackle, so they're going for it. Breece Hall's great. Garrett Wilson's good. Mike Williams is pretty good if he's healthy. So I think Rodgers still has something left in the tank. I don't know if it's MVP version of Rodgers, but for $1, I think he'll be better than above average. He'll be a top 10 fantasy quarterback. So he'll be like, maybe that's a little much. Maybe he'll be like the 11th or 12th best fantasy quarterback. So maybe you'll look for an upgrade at quarterback at some point, but I suppose for the upside, for the value, it's not bad for $1. Like, I don't like Aaron Rodgers, the human, but Aaron Rodgers, the football player, is a good player. He's a 4-time MVP. He's a Hall of Famer. So, if he stays healthy, that's good. Then we got $12 Najee Harris. All right. We'll go with the good with the bad. I'm a Steelers fan. They declined a 5th-year option on Najee Harris. I think this is the last year he's with the Steelers. I think he's probably the starter. I don't think he should be the starter. Every year he's been in the league, his stats have gotten worse, just like Ezekiel Elliott. I don't think he breaks 1,000 yards this year. I think he gets less touchdowns at 6 touchdowns. I think he averaged 11.5 points in fantasy last year, so that's like running back 25-ish, which is about where he's like drafted. The good news of all of those things that I just mentioned, I suppose the good news is Arthur Smith is the coordinator, and he once upon a time was feeding Derrick Henry. Bad news is Arthur Smith had Bijan Robinson and Tyler Algier and was giving Cordero Patterson red zone touches, goal line touches, and we were just like, why did you draft Bijan Robinson at 8 overall then? This is really dumb. So I think you're going to probably want to upgrade this, but for $12, just like we said, any running back with a pulse, like, do I love Najee? No. Do I like the situation? No. Is he a good player? No. He'll get touches. I mean, Gus Edwards went for 15. It's kind of like the same deal, just like with Justin taking, Mostert for 9. It's kind of like that. I kind of see, like, Harris kind of like that. I don't think he's great. I think Max spent like 38 on him last year, but $12 for starting running back, deal, do it all day, every day, check, please, thank you. Chris Godwin for 11. I mean, he was wide receiver 28 last year. He didn't get I don't think he got a lot of touchdowns. I think he got like 3, but if he could just find the end zone more, he'd be a very good wide receiver 3. I mean, I think he'll get his 1,000 yards. He averages about that. I think he'll get the end zone more. Maybe not a lot, but maybe like 5 or 6, which would more than double what he got last year. I think he got 3. So that's like 12.5 fantasy points over a whole season. So that's wide receiver 3, fringe wide receiver 3, solid wide receiver 4, upside wide receiver 4. But like for you, that's like freaking, he's not even in your starting lineup. So like, I don't know if I would have placated all of that money to him. I probably would have like rolled that over and gotten a better RB2 than Najee. But, you know, good depth piece, good player, solid player, considering all the young receivers you have with Jefferson, Smith, London, Waddle. Like, Godwin's an old man, and he's only 28. So, yeah. He's playing for a contract, too, in Tampa. So we'll see, but good player. And then we did... Tony Pollard for 9. So, is he the guy we saw 2 years ago that was super efficient? Is he the guy we saw last year with the Cowboys that couldn't do anything? I mean, they gave interviews at the Pro Bowl where he said he hadn't been healthy all last season until the bye week, and his efficiency numbers kind of showed that after the bye week he was his old self. So, Derrick Henry's gone. Tajay Spears is probably the pass-catching back. What is Pollard? And they paid him quite a bit of money. So I don't think he's going to get fed like he got fed last year. He got like 250 carries and then another 55 receiving yards. And he didn't do nothing with it for the most part. So I think he'll get like 750 yards rushing and then he'll probably break 1,000 total because he'll make 250 receiving, maybe like 5 touchdowns. And that's a starting running back at fantasy. Like, I think he was the 15th best running back last year, but that was only because of volume. So I think he'll be like, top 25-ish. But man, again, $9. $9 for a starting running back. Warren could really use any of these players. We'll ignore the defense. He took Elijah Mitchell for $1. I think Jordan Mason beats him out, but, you know, maybe for the fun, he doesn't, and then you can, like, cut him if it doesn't work out. You doubled up on Aaron Rodgers' guy, Mike Williams. I mean, he missed all of last year, but before last year, he was a pretty good player. He's 29 now, so he's kind of old, and he's blown out his ACL twice, but, you know, just see if there's something there, and if not, you can just kind of cut him. He's a boomer bust wide receiver 3. You have a bunch of good receivers. It took Caleb Williams for the upside pick in case Rodgers is out. I think Caleb, it's tough being a rookie, man. I don't think the Bears' offensive line is great. I think it's probably around average, maybe a little below average, but I don't think it's bad. And then you took Alexander Madison, to handcuff Zamir White. That's not bad. So, overall, Justin went Alvin Kamara, you went Justin Jefferson, kind of like, Mac went Jonathan Taylor, and then, let's see, who was it? Again, Brian went like Isaiah Pacheco. So, I think this is a really good team. I mentioned before in Justin's video, there's a lot of teams, there's a lot of groupthink this year. There's a lot of teams, hero running back, fill up receivers. A lot of those teams have like a bunch of wide receiver 2s-ish on like cheap deals. You did not get the cheap deals. You went for upside, and you paid for it. So your wide receivers are slightly worse, or running back. Your running backs are slightly worse, but your receivers are excellent. So you're kind of hoping that London, Waddle, Smith, someone becomes like your second star guy. With Jefferson, I would have preferred having like a second star guy, and what I mean by that is like, I think, was it Lauren? Yeah, Lauren has the three wide receivers, so I would have liked like a Garrett Wilson on your team a lot, but, you know, getting Drake London at his price, I can't, that's what he costs. So, I think this is a really good team. I really like the build. I think it's kind of fun that you got like Zamir White and Najee Harris and Tony Pollard, because basically you're just like, I'm going to build this team on wide receivers, and I'm just kind of going to throw guys at running back, and they're just they just have to be serviceable. They just need to be starting and healthy, and I'm kind of just going to toss them in there and hope for the best. And I don't think that's a bad strategy, all things considered. I wish you took more running backs because I wish that for everyone. But, I mean, man, this team's deep. This team has got, like, most of these guys, like, I'll give you an example. So, like, let's see, Jefferson, Smith, London, Waddle, Godwin, Mike Williams could all start for my team today, right now. And that's 6 wide receivers. So that just gives you an idea of how deep this team is. You've been to the finals before. This team is much better than the team you had last year. It's funny that you got Tony Pollard back. I thought that was cute. It's an interesting build. I love Justin Jefferson, though. If I was going to build a wide receiver build, it would be like this, because I love the players. I love the upside. I love the breakout potential. Like, everything about them screams just like big season. All right, Devontae Smith with a new coordinator, big season. Drake London with a new coordinator, big season. Zamir White's the guy, big season. Jalen Waddle back with McDaniel, big season. Aaron Rodgers healthy, big season. So, like, as much as I don't like Najee Harris, Arthur Smith has been a top 5 rushing offensive coordinator / coach for like the past. We have to go back to 2017 with Derrick Henry starting out with Arthur Smith as the coordinator. So yeah, he's always had a top 5 rushing attack. So, I mean, again, that's really good possible upside. If something happened to Jalen Warren, Harris would eat. So, this is less about... Yeah, with Justin, I talked about in-season management. I kind of feel the same way about you. I think last year you had ETN and Breece Hall. You had ETN and Breece Hall, and you also did not make the playoffs. So 2 teams that did not make the playoffs. 2 teams that drafts I really like. I like your draft better than Justin's. I don't think I'm going out on a limb there. If Justin's a B, though, I'll probably give you a B+. It's just like very similar builds, just different kind of star players, interchanging them. But, man, this team is really good, Stefan. I hope you can, like, maximize the most out of it. I hope, again, we're not getting towards the end of the season and it's just like, oh, I have Chris Godwin on my bench and Mike Williams looks really good on my bench. Like, cool, great, awesome. Go get a good running back. Like, what are we doing? Like, try and upgrade something. Do something. Let's not have Michael Gallup in our starting lineup while we're trying to sit on ETN and Breece Hall. Let's move one of them and try and get some depth and try and, like, make a playoff push. So, this team's a playoff team. I think this team's probably a top 3 team in the league coming out of the draft, which is weird to say because it's not running back centric, but I just really, really like the particular way you went about the receivers, like a lot. It could fall apart with Rodgers. I don't know if Caleb really is the guy. There's a reason I picked Jaden Daniels. I like him way more than Caleb just because of the rushing. But, I mean, you can always find quarterbacks. I mean, chances are Lauren's probably going to drop Brock Purdy at some point. I mean, I guess you could keep a backup quarterback, but, I mean, girl needs a running back to save her life. So, you could try and trade for Jordan Love with Robbie, I guess, if you hate yourself. But, this team's really good, man. I hope you are paying attention. I hope you do the necessary things to navigate the season and injuries and what have you. I guess, Pollard could get hurt again, and that could really test your depth at running back, especially because you don't have Tyjae Spears and you don't have Jalen Warren. That would be the one thing where I'm just like, your running back depth's not great, just kind of like Justin. It's maybe a little better, but not great. So, yeah, I'd definitely be on the lookout for, like, getting some handcuffs. We're going to talk more about that in some later videos, about the importance of handcuffs, because clearly some of y'all didn't learn a damn thing. But overall, this is a good team, Stefan. Like, you did a very good job in this draft. You came ready, prepared, you budgeted well, and you hit the draft, like, running. So this was one of the better drafts of this year. A lot of people were taken aback by the prices of running backs, which confuses me because that happens every year. But you just seemed prepared. You knew what to do. You executed a plan, and it worked out perfectly. So, like the team a lot. Very well done. It's a short video. I don't have a lot to say because, man, it's just good. This is the kind of stuff I wish like more teams did. So, good job.